Brian Dowling is the Kildare hurling manager. He was also the Kilkenny Camogie manager when they won the All-Ireland in 22. He was part of the management team in 2020 when they won the All-Ireland as well, and stepped down after Cork started this run of potentially 3 in a row this weekend after beating Kilkenny in 2023. Brian, welcome along to the programme.
Morning, Will. How are you?
Good. Did you enjoy your time with the Kilkenny Camogie team? I mean, I suppose naturally winning All-Ireland with your own county had to be incredibly enjoyable, I would say.
Yeah, geez, it was a brilliant time. I was there for 5 years altogether. 1 year with Anne Downey as the coach, and then 4 as manager. So, yeah, look, delighted to win 2 All-Irelands with the Kilkenny Camogie team. It was only actually yesterday. Someone just texted me. It was 3 years to the day yesterday when we won in 2022. So it brought back a lot of good memories. We had some great days, and they're memories that I'll definitely treasure for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and like when it comes to your coaching career as well, so like you had, Kieran's in the bank and all that, but I'm guessing this is probably a very important step in your coaching career, what you did with those ladies too.
Yeah, I suppose it gave me the confidence to go on and do other things. I suppose it was funny how I got involved. It wasn't something that I ever thought I would do. I wouldn't have had much knowledge of camogie or anything like that before I got involved. So it took me a while to get to grips with it, but once I kind of got to grips with it, I kind of felt comfortable in there. And, obviously, look, when you win an All-Ireland, it makes things a lot easier. There was a lot of pressure going into 2020 because, the team had lost 3 All-Irelands in a row, so if they had to lose 4, I don't know where that team would have ended up. So to win in 2020 was unreal. I suppose during COVID, it was strange times, but to back it up then in 2022 was amazing because everyone was there at the match, all the family, supporters, and it was a great occasion to win it again in 2022.
Forgive me if this sounds like a silly question, but do you have to adapt your coaching when you go into camogie compared to hurling?
Yeah, it's different. I remember being at a club game and a supporter was shouting at a referee in my first year looking at games, and he was, ref, she's playing the hurl, like obviously which you're allowed to do in camogie. So there's different things. You can obviously could have hand passed the ball into the goal at the start as well, all these kind of things. But in fairness to the association, they did change the rules. Probably my second year, I think it was, for the better, in my opinion. It is definitely different. I suppose you're treating, you're working with women instead of men. It is different. I had to change again then when I went to Kildare. So it is different. The game is different, but they both have their strengths, and both great games to watch, in my opinion.
Yeah, it feels to me like the physicality has increased in the game, even compared to when you would have started going in with Kilkenny. And referees are maybe refereeing the game a little bit differently now. And the thing as well, Brian, when you talk to any of the players currently, they all seem to relish being able to go in shoulder to shoulder against each other, maybe bring some more physicality to the game that wasn't possible 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, no, definitely agree. So one of my big frustrations at the start was how fussy the refs were. I remember there was one game down in Clare, and I'd say you couldn't touch anybody where it was a free, and it wasn't enjoyable to be involved in. And the players will tell you that, the managers tell you that, but it's definitely better to watch now. There is probably 1 or 2 things like the frontal challenge that someone runs into somebody, that one causes a bit of trouble. But generally, the game is definitely better to watch. Before I got involved, there were some Kilkenny and Cork finals there, and they were just all it was game of freeze, and nobody was enjoying it. So in fairness to the association, they changed around that, and it is more enjoyable to watch. And look, please God, there'll be a big crowd in Croker on Sunday for Cork and Galway and the other teams obviously as well, because these players put in such a huge effort. It's a great occasion. You see the crowd that's at the hurling final, the football final. So even the ladies' football final last week was great to see such a big crowd. That's what these players deserve. So, please God, the people of these counties, there's no point, supporting a team from the television. Go and support these girls. They deserve it. They're putting in a huge effort.
It's set up intriguingly as well, and I appreciate the Cork have kind of swept all before them this year, maybe with the exception of the first half against Waterford. But it's easy to forget Galway are unbeaten this season as well. Came through as group winners, having won all their matches. Came through then that semi-final against Tipperary the last day. This is a pretty intriguing final we've set up for Sunday evening.
Yeah, look, I suppose everything is pointing towards a Cork victory. But as you said, Galway to me are waiting in the long grass. And I'd love to be in the Galway camp in the last 2 weeks. Everybody, I'm sure Colin Murray is using it. Everybody's writing us off. We've no chance here. Cork have beaten them in a lot of big games in the last couple of years. Bet them the All-Ireland final last year with 3 points, bet them the league final this year. They bet them in the group stage before as well. So I just think, everything I said is pointing to Cork fixture. It kind of reminds me of the hurling. Everyone was pointing to Cork beating Tipperary, and look what happened. So, like in last year's final, the same thing. Cork were massive favourites, and Galway, were level with a couple of minutes to go, lost by 3 in the end. So, look, I think Galway are in with the right shout here. They're going to have their best game in many a year to beat this Cork team, but it is in them. And the one thing I'd fear for Cork is the lack of competitive games that they've had. I see Amy O'Connor on an interview there this morning saying that they've had good 15 on 15 games. That's what they're trying to convince themselves. It doesn't matter if this game is tight with 10, 15 minutes to go. You need to have them tough games in the bank. It's very, very hard to just turn it on. So that's the one thing I'd give Galway a better chance of Cork, is that Cork just haven't had those tough games. That's no fault of Cork. I think they've won every game, an aggregate victories of 100 points this year. They just swept everybody aside, and they're an absolutely fabulous team.
Yeah, and it's hard to replicate that. And again, this is another year where Cork have gone directly into a semi-final, so they haven't had maybe that extra test. And other than Waterford, and when they seemed to me, Brian, when they worked out the sweeper system in the second half and they had the better subs to come on as well, Cork kind of answered all the questions really well in the second half at Nolan Park the last day.
Yeah, they did. Look, Waterford, in fairness, put it right up to them that first half. The only team that done it this year, including the league final against Galway. So, but look, Cork did figure it out, and I think they were probably rusty from not having, again, a tough game. And look, that game will probably stand him, but it was only for 30 minutes. And as you said, once they figured it out, Katrina Mackey and these ones, Amy O'Connor just took off then in the second half and just blew them away. Like, they still won by 10 points that day. They're a very strong team. I was just looking at it since the 2022 All-Ireland. They still have 12 of that team. And they brought in Pamela Mackey's back as well, so they're actually stronger than they probably were in 2022. Just in comparison, like Kilkenny have lost so many players since then, but Cork, they've stayed together, and you've seen what they've done since. They're going for 3 in a row. I know they haven't done it in a while. There's a lot of talk about it. Again, that's something that Galway are probably using. So, it's going to be an interesting game. I'm sure Colin Murray's going to have to come up with something a little bit different, like Tip did in the hurling with playing a sweeper. I don't know. Playing a sweeper is probably not the right thing to do, because you're just leaving Laura Tracy free at the other end, and you definitely don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, but I suppose they have to do something slightly different to try and disrupt this Cork team. There's if they go out and try and take them on 15 on 15, I think there's more firepower in that Cork team.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know what it is. Maybe a third midfielder or something, try and crowd out around the middle, but you can't be giving Laura Tracy, the freedom of Croke Park. And teams have done that before, playing sweepers, and Laura Tracy ends up with 25, 30 possessions. You just can't do that. The big thing, maybe they have to try and upset Laura Tracy. Look, I suppose you have two options. You put someone on her and stop her influence on the game, or you put someone like Aoife Donoghue on her and get her to actually mark her. Look, Laura likes to sit on the D, and Aoife Donoghue likes to roam around the place. So do you put Aoife Donoghue on her and try and get Laura Tracy out of that comfort zone, out of the D? And maybe that's something that might work for Galway.
Hurling summer, we had 3, I think, remarkable storylines. One would be the second half of that All-Ireland final and Tipperary coming out on top. Second one is probably Limerick pulling off the massive shot, Dublin pulling off the massive shock against Limerick. And the third one is Kildare, getting ready to go back into the Leinster Championship for the first time in a couple of decades, winning the Joe McDonagh, having not won a game in the competition. Brian, you went and won the competition this year. What a remarkable season it's been for the Kildare hurlers.
Yeah, it was unreal, Will. It's something that I suppose we just thinking back in the last couple of weeks, it just hits you every now and again that, it's something that we've actually gone and done. I suppose if you interviewed me after the Kerry game and someone said you'd win the Joe McDonagh, you'd be saying there's not a chance in hell. But, again, momentum is huge in any sport, and I suppose getting that first win against Westmeath was massive for the group. And that kind of gave us the confidence then to go on from there. But, I suppose that we had to go and back it up down in Carlow. And that was probably the day that the players, management, everyone believed that maybe this was possible. We've beaten a good team down in their home patch by 6 points. We lost a player, our captain, for 10 minutes that day as well. And we still managed to get through it. So that gave us the confidence then to go on and do it. Obviously beating Laois then the next day again, that was a way, and the confidence just kept growing each week. And it was just obviously brought that into the final then in Croke Park, and it's great when you perform on the big day. That's what it's all about. That's what you dream about. And in that second half, apart from the opening goal for Laois, that was a brilliant performance by the players, and it was just brilliant to see them get the rewards for all the hard work they've done over the last number of years.
So Sean Paul Dolan a few days after the McDonagh Cup final, and he was saying to me that basically midstream, once you'd won a game, there was kind of two ways this goes. You either decide one more win keeps you in the Joe McDonagh for next season, or you decide to push on. Like, on the face of it, that's an intimidating fixture list. Carlow having to go and win in Laois, having beaten Westmeath for the first time in the McDonagh Cup as well. But you guys seem to have decided as a group that you weren't going to settle for just one or two wins and stay in it for next season.
Yeah, like that was the message from the start of the year, to be honest. Would have had the one-to-one chats with the players, and kind of got what they thought, and most of the players were saying they just wanted to stay in the Joe McDonagh, which was a realistic target. But we wanted to challenge them more, and we wanted to raise the standards higher than that. And look, our aim all year was to get to the top two. We knew it was going to be very hard, but that's what we wanted to achieve. We just didn't want to be happy enough to try and stay in the Joe McDonagh. And once we bet Westmeath, and then I suppose it was in the dressing room after the Carlow game, we just said, what are we waiting for next year, the year after? This is an opportunity now. If we can go and beat Laois, and then obviously get the job done against Dowling, we're in a final here, and it's, what an opportunity. You don't know when you get your chance. You can't say next year, the year after. You don't know what players you have available. You don't know what will happen. So now that was our opportunity this year to go and do it, and thankfully that's what happened.
Yeah, obviously there must have been belief within the group that they could do this, because it's only a few years ago they got to a Division 2 final in Portlaoise against Offaly, and it didn't quite happen for them then. It felt like Division 1 hurling could potentially happen for Kildare. Like, this time round, what it felt like for me, and I know the Carlow result was really important, but I watched you against Laois, and the physicality, intensity, particularly either side of half time you brought that day, I thought these teams are a proper contender the way you went to beat Laois that day.
Yeah, I suppose, look, the Kerry game we learnt a huge amount from. We probably didn't use that intensity or aggression. Our tackle count that day was way down on what it should be. Our GPS stats are way down on what it should be. So, look, I suppose you get a bad result, but you can use it in a positive way. And luckily for us, we got it good and early in the year, and we were able to react from it. And we used that game for the rest of the year. And the lads knew they had to go out, and everything they had to do had to be 100%, or we weren't going to get the victories. And I suppose, look, when you get confidence, you do these things. If you're not confident, you're not going to make these tackles. You're not going to take on the shots. And that second half again against Laois in the group stage was excellent as well. We really took them on, and you could see the confidence just seeping into players coming through. They actually believed in themselves that they could go and do it. The management group, we knew that this was in them, but I suppose the cloud was hanging over them. Everyone kept saying that they'd never won a Joe McDonagh game, and probably go back down to Christy Ring again, your yo-yo team. And until you get the victories, you probably don't get the belief in yourself to go and do it. So to get these massive victories against really good teams, just give them the confidence to go on and just believe in themselves.
What's the ceiling for this team? Because I'm sure when you look at the Leinster fixtures next year, it'll be an emotional day for you, probably taking on Kilkenny. I think you're going to have Offaly at home in the last game, with the way the Leinster fixtures generally work out. Like, what is the ceiling for Kildare hurling, or what do you hope to achieve for the rest of your tenure there?
Yeah, look, it's a strange one coming up against Kilkenny. It's not something that I would ever wanted to do. It'll be very strange. I was only asking my two young lads there who they're going to shout for, so I didn't really get a straight answer. I think they'll have the half and half jersey for that one. But look, I'm just involved with Kildare. So I came in on a 3-year term, and this is my third year. Look, it's fantastic to have the opportunity to be managing the team heading into Division 1B. First of all, that's going to be extremely competitive, and then to go into the Leinster Championship, it's something I suppose we have to get our heads around. Look, I said last year our aim was getting to the top two. I have to be realistic and say to get into the top two in Leinster is going to be extremely hard. So, look, we have to do everything we can to try and stay in the competition for the lads next year, that they're in that position again. We've seen too many teams in the past go up and come straight back down, and that's very, very hard. I know people are saying you should be staying up for 2 years, but look, I don't know how you manage that. I think you have to aim it, you have to achieve it yourselves, and that's what we have to go and try and do. So we have to try and get a couple of victories. It's going to be extremely hard. We've 3 home games against Offaly, Wexford and Galway, and we're away then to Dublin and Kilkenny. Look, there's no easy game. We saw in the preliminary game the week after Joe McDonagh how tough this is going to be. So we're under no illusions. But look, the lads are up for the challenge, and I'm sure when we get back training, the lads will go mad at it. And look, we'll do everything we can. It's great to be up there. It's where the lads want to be. It's where you should be, trying yourself, playing against the best.
The debate continues about the preliminary quarterfinals. Obviously, Congress last year it was voted to keep them, but I saw Jarlath Burns not that long ago was talking about, how maybe it doesn't serve the teams. So, like, realistically, 2019, Laois beat Dublin. It's the only time that a team from the Joe McDonagh Cup final has won a preliminary quarterfinal. And again, we had it wasn't just yourselves against Dublin. Laois were put to the sword by Tipperary in the other preliminary quarterfinal as well. Did you still see a value in that, though, in bringing Dublin to Conlitz that day for the doubleheader and playing them?
Yeah, like it was a great occasion. The place was full. There was a great atmosphere there. Obviously, the result wasn't what we wanted. I think, I suppose, there's 2 ways of looking at it. One, I think it has to be scrapped altogether. And the other one, if it is going to go ahead, it should only be the winning team, and it has to be a 2-week gap. I don't know how you can expect any team that's won an All-Ireland final to prepare and perform 6 days later against a top-class opposition. Like, imagine if the Tipperary hurlers had to come out and play the Saturday after the All-Ireland. It just wouldn't happen. Like, we had no chance going into that Dublin game. Players deservedly and rightly so had to celebrate that victory. That was our All-Ireland final. I had to do analysis and stuff on Dublin on the Tuesday and Wednesday night. It was very strange even watching the matches, because I hadn't watched much of the Leinster Championship, because you're so focused on the Joe McDonagh. That's all you're aiming for. So it was very, very difficult to get our heads around it. But I suppose the best thing for us is that it was an early eye opener for next season. You know exactly where you need to get. The levels you need to get. The physicality, the speed, the power. The Dublin lads probably blew us away that day. And if you're not going to be ready, they will blow you away in the league and the championship next year. So that's probably the best thing for it. I really felt sorry for Tommy Fitzgerald and the Laois lads. If we'd lost that final, I would not have liked to turn around and play Tip the following Saturday. I don't see how that can benefit anybody, playing in the All-Ireland series. But for the winning team, maybe 2 weeks later probably is the only opportunity and the only way that it should be done.
Yeah. Tell me if Paul Murphy was telling me the truth on the hurling pod here. So he said the day after that defeat against Dublin, he saw you coaching the kids the next morning early doors. Is that true?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I met Paul actually over on the pitch. I'm from O'Loughlin's, but my club now is Danesford, so Paul is obviously from the same club. There was an under 9 in or 8 or 9 blitz the next morning, so I was over there with the young lads. So they don't be long about bringing you back down to earth, I tell you, straight away.
Well, I don't know. I don't know whether you want to sulk or have a bit of time away, or was the best thing to go back out and actually be back out with the kids the next morning?
Yeah, look, I suppose I celebrated the Sunday and the Monday before it, so my wife was away on the Saturday, so I had no choice but to be there on the Sunday. I suppose I'd use up my tokens the following week. But no, look, I suppose you can feel sorry for yourself. It was a really strange one, because obviously we'd won the All-Ireland the week before, and then 6 days later you're speaking to lads in the dressing room after losing by about 22 points. It's a strange feeling. What to say to them, and I just really wanted to get a message across that every single one of them to leave Connacht that day proud, and don't let this result kind of ruin the year, and it didn't. I know the players went off and they went out for a couple of days after that, and that's what they needed to do. But I suppose when you win an All-Ireland in one way, that's it. It's like, I suppose, when you win a club final, a county final for the first time, it can be hard to play the club championship the following week, and that's why you see teams struggle winning it the first time. Maybe it takes their second time that you see a team really getting going at club championship. But it was a great occasion in Connacht that day, and it was great to see that it was full for a hurling game, not just a football game. There was a double header there, and it was a fantastic occasion.
So we wonder about teams trying to close the gap to the top 7 or 8 teams in hurling. You're at the coalface at the moment with Kildare trying to do that. How difficult is it to try and catch up with those teams? Because we can go and enjoy how good the Munster Hurling Championship has been, and particularly how close these teams are to each other. And like Kilkenny and a few of the other Leinster teams have shown their quality as well. But how difficult is it for Kildare to try and close that gap to the very top now?
Look, it is extremely difficult. I suppose even last year I was looking at it, trying to close the gap to the Joe McDonagh. It was really difficult. Like, we would have played challenge games against Carlow and Laois there in the last couple of years, and we would have got a few trimmings, and we would have kind of like, geez, how are we gonna catch up with the likes of Carlow and Laois, who are the top teams of Joe McDonagh? And now we're trying to catch up with the Galways, Kilkennys, Dublins, Wexford, Offaly's of this world. But look, I suppose you have to be hopeful, you have to dream, you have to try and aspire to reach these teams, or what's the point of it? Kildare have put it up to teams in the past. You mentioned the league game against Offaly there 3 years ago in that league final, and they were competitive in that division in the league that year. Joe McDonagh didn't go well. You look at Westmeath beating Wexford a couple of years ago in the Leinster Championship. Look at Carlow drawing against Kilkenny 2 years ago as well. So look, you have to see these results, but the hard thing is consistency. You see one day a team plays well and the next day they're shipping a heavy defeat, and that's something that you have to try and stop. For us, I suppose the strength and condition is a huge thing. We have an excellent S&C, Mick Gillick. He's a minute man. He's absolutely top class. It's to try and catch up with these teams. They're doing it for the last number of years. I suppose Kildare are only kind of starting to do it in the last year or two, so it's trying to catch up on that. It's just the pace and the power of these teams as well. They're at a different level, and they're hurling so fast. And against Dublin in that game, the preliminary game, any mistake we made, we were absolutely punished. Dublin were just on top of us, and they were just turning us over. So our hurling has to get sharper and faster, and that's what the level we have to get to. And the lads are up for the challenge. It's going to be a very tough one, but you want to have these challenges, or what's the point in hurling? The players, these lads dreamed of playing against these top teams. Whether they thought it'd ever get there, I don't know, but they're here now. They're playing against TJ Reeds, the Tony Kellys, the Lee Chins of this world, and that's absolutely fabulous to go out and test yourself against these players.
It's getting that exposure as well, because a few of the Naas lads have said in recent times, underage, they would have went into the Kilkenny leagues at underage level, and that helped to sharpen them, and they were getting a better standard of hurling as well. Again, like, you probably need that exposure, even if it takes a few probably difficult games and maybe defeats along the way. If you're ever going to get to that level, you need to be able to test yourself against that speed of hurling, don't you?
Yeah, you have to be, and I suppose Division 1B is going to be a help for us this year going into Leinster Championship. We're playing top teams there the whole way through. You've Clare, Dublin, and Wexford coming. They're top teams, and obviously there's other teams, strong teams in the competition as well. But I would have came up against Naas as a Loughlin's under 16 manager a couple of years ago, and I seen how good they were back then. And they benefited from that because they weren't getting any tests in Kildare then, and these players got to challenge themselves against really good hurlers in Kilkenny. So that definitely brought these lads on. And look, people have seen what Naas have done in the club championship in the last number of years as well, and they're a fabulous team. And I suppose it's Kildare have done reasonably well underage in the last number of years. The minors last year put it up to Kilkenny in Hawkfield there for a long time. So there is green shoots there from underage as well, and it's just important to try and bring a few players through now and keep that conveyor belt going.
Yeah, it's interesting, because I was wondering what the quality of player was going to be, because like Offaly at the moment are largely building on a couple of groups of underage players, in particular under 20s, and that's the way they're kind of pushing forward. So I was wondering, in Kildare, is there a backup beyond this group that can maybe be the next generation as well?
Yeah, like, this group is very, very young. I think the average age last year was 22 in most of our games, so it is very young. We have a few more experienced players like Paddy McKenna, Jerry Keegan, but the average age is very young. These lads are only 21, 22, so they're hopefully going to be around for a long time. I suppose the lucky thing for Kildare is we haven't lost too many lads travelling the last number of years. A few have gone away, and there's a couple coming back this year, so it's important that like Kildare doesn't lose these players. Obviously there's a lot of young lads going away at the moment, and they're going off to Australia and these places, so it's important not to lose players, because Kildare needs absolutely everybody. And look, it'd be lovely to win a minor under 21, under 20 Leinster, whatever it is, but to me the important thing is to bring through 2, 3, 4 really good hurlers every year, and if you can do that, well, then you have a better chance of being successful. Obviously Offaly have brought through an absolutely unbelievable team. Came up against them in colleges with Kieran's, and they're unbelievable team, and they're going to backbone that Offaly team for many years to come. So that's just, I suppose Offaly have lucky that they've got really lucky with a brilliant team there that they can help produce players for the future. But Kildare is not, don't have the under 20 All-Ireland winning team, but if you can just bring through 3 or 4 every year, I think that will really help.
You learning your coaching stripes elsewhere at the moment. So look, this has been the case. Herity obviously is now an All-Ireland winning coach with Tipperary, given what he's done as their goalkeeping coach and selector right now as well. Like, did you feel, because you could have probably stayed with underage teams in Kilkenny or maybe worked your way up within the county and stay within the system, did you feel for your own development that you needed to kind of go have a look at a different hurling culture here?
I suppose I wanted to stay in inter-county management. I just didn't fancy going back to club scene at this moment in time.
Right.
I will eventually, but I just loved the structure of the inter-county, just having full access to the players, having good facilities, having everything in the background. Players are fully on board. So just this opportunity came up in Kildare. There wasn't any opportunity in Kilkenny for me at the time. I wasn't approached by Kilkenny to get involved in any team or anything like that. So I didn't want to sit around. I wanted to, I took a break for about a month, I suppose, and then I just wanted to get back into inter-county management. And I seen this as an opportunity, and I want to get back into the hurling side of things as well. I've been away from it for a long time, so I did 5 years at Camogie, and I just wanted to try and get involved. And I thought Kildare was a really good project. They were back in the Christie Ring, so it was a chance to win something in your first year and really build on something. And I'm very good friends with David Herity, so he definitely said to go for it, and that'd be a good opportunity. So I just felt it was the right fit for me. I had to go for the job, I had to apply for it, had to do an interview for it. So look, I was delighted to get the opportunity. I said I knew the age profile was very interesting, that the players were very young, and by David, he said good opportunity, so I just went for it, and thankfully got the job, and it's worked out well for me. Look, it's been a great experience. I'd love to be involved in Kilkenny, obviously, in years to come. It's my home county. Same thing with my own club, All-Ireland Gales. I would love to go back and help out there, but look, at the moment I'm with Kildare, and I'll be giving absolutely everything to do what I can for Kildare for as long as I'm here.
Yeah, I was just thinking, so the ultimate aspiration then, I would think on your part, would be to be Kilkenny manager someday.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's like when you're a hurler growing up, you want to play for Kilkenny, and luckily I got to do that. It didn't last as long as I would have wanted, but I did it for a couple of years. But yeah, look, obviously it would be a dream to manage Kilkenny, but it's not something I think about right now, but it's definitely something for the future. There's obviously a lot of good candidates there, and probably better candidates than I am, but it's definitely something. It's like anything, you have to dream, and to manage your own county and to manage your own club to success is definitely something that I would love to do in the future. All right.
Well, look, next year you get to manage Nolan Park against Kilkenny, and you get to play in Division 1B of the hurling league as well. Look, congrats on that. Thanks for talking to us about the Camogie, and also about what's been happening in Kildare as well. Brian, have a good Friday. Thanks a million.
Okay, thanks, Will. Thank you for having me.
We're continuing our chat ahead of the All-Ireland Senior Camogie final this weekend. We've got Cork against Galway. Rachel Sheehan has joined us. Rachel, how are you?
All good now, yourself, Will?
Yeah, I'm good. Now, I was looking at the Irish Examiner, and I was wondering, was anyone going to do this piece? Because we have seen Sorcha McCartan wearing a skirt throughout the championship. So she's been a bit of an outlier. For the best part, it's been shorts across the board. I was talking to some of the teams at the press conferences last week or two, and they all went and got them constructed as quickly as they possibly could to have them ready for championship. But Sorcha has said, and she's very much pointing out in this interview with Teresa O'Callaghan in the Irish Examiner today, that her teammates are more than happy with her choice to keep going with a skirt. And she said the reason that she's kept it, she thinks it's more comfortable than shorts.
Yeah, it's interesting. At the start of the year, everyone was saying we'd be keeping an eye out now, especially All-Ireland final day, to see how many people actually are kitting out in them. And you were saying during the week as well that a lot of the Down Camogie team were wearing them during the year as well.
Yeah.
So maybe that's a nod to Sorcha's roots up and down. I think Liv Mallon's been wearing the shorts all year. But yeah, I suppose it's what it's all about, really. If she's saying that she's more comfortable wearing it, and now she has the option to wear that or the shorts, it's shows that we really came to the right solution at the end of the day, that players have that choice.
Do you know what, crucially as well, there was this kind of suspicion, and it was definitely a cynical attitude, which people went, I wonder if there is a player or two who maybe feel they want to keep wearing the skirt, and they might feel pressured because 30 of their teammates are there in shorts. Obviously, in McCartan's case, no problem.
No problem, yeah. And I think it's probably a testament to her teammates as well, that there's no pressure coming in from the outside saying that they have to dress uniformly. And I mean, it's in their best interest to have every player feeling as comfortable as they can on All-Ireland final day to get the results they want.
Did you ditch the skirt straight away?
Oh yeah, immediately. I'd kind of ditched them beforehand, really.
Right, okay. Again, was that a comfort thing, or did you just not like skirts?
Comfort thing, yeah, absolutely comfort thing.
Right, okay. Again, I'm surprised that Sorcha said she feels more comfortable, because any player I've talked to who's changed was like shorts are just much freer to wear.
Yeah, and it's interesting as well. Like, I notice a lot of the time Sorcha wears undershorts, that you used to always wear. So if that's a thing that she's wearing them and they feel more comfortable under the skirt, might be a thing. Like, Can't imagine wearing them under the tight pair of shorts either. They mightn't work that well. So it's definitely like a look that she has on her own. It's a bit of a brand now, the undershorts under the skirt.
Cork, right, at the moment, we had Sarah Donovan say this yesterday, that you can't help but talk about 3 in a row. She said they will talk about that in the camp, because there's this whole thing of the half a century and it's always been 2s as opposed to 3s. So Cork can't really avoid this, can they?
They can't, no. And I think it'd be silly for them to avoid it. You know, obviously they're not going to be going into the dressing room all the time saying, we have to win this final because this is going to be our 3 in a row and this is why we want to win it. It'll be a good few of those girls' first year on that panel and their first All-Ireland. But you have to embrace something like that. Not put too much pressure on yourself, but just know that it is history again that they're going to make this year if they win. And Hannah Looney spoke during the week at the media day about this being a legacy team, and if they do this, you know, they will be. Obviously, it was the Wexford team in 2010s, and before that, the 4 in a row team from the 1970s.
Brian was just saying there, so he was looking back at the team sheets from 22 and 23, and he was saying that there's still a lot of that Cork team, the core group of like 11 or 12 of them are still here.
Yeah, and that's what's most important, I think. We talk about the depth of the Cork panel and that we've had so many younger players coming in, but there's been like a spine throughout that team, like the 2 Mackies, Aisling Thompson, Laura Tracy, probably coming in a couple of years later than that have just been there. They have that experience. So there's a lot of pressure. There's a lot of talk about Cork coming up this week, but they have the experience. People have been making comparisons between like, oh, everyone expected the Cork hurlers to win. Now everyone expecting the Cork Camogie to win.
I think everyone expected the Cork hurlers to win up until half-time.
Exactly. And people are wondering, is the same fate going to befall this Cork Camogie team? But the difference between a lot of this Cork Camogie team and the Cork hurling team is that they've been there before, they've done it. And I think we saw that maybe during the Waterford game, their backs against the wall. Waterford played the sweeper, and at one stage you could see the camera panned, someone was down injured, and Gemma O'Connor just came on from the sideline and had a word with Aisling Thompson. And that's the kind of communication that this team have. Like, you've got Gemma O'Connor on the sideline feeding you in something to do with the sweeper in the backs.
To your main general on the pitch, like I would presume, right, Thompson must do a lot of the kind of, I guess, that work of communicating.
Absolutely. I mean, they've got leaders dotted all over the pitch, but to have a line coming from Gemma O'Connor into Aisling Thompson straight into the squad, and it took them until halftime to really get to grips with it, but that's fair enough. You know, it's probably the first time all year they'd really been challenged. So, yeah, there's comparisons between the Camogie and the hurling, but I think we saw in the semi-finals that this team can deal with adversity there and then within themselves, and you know, they act quick enough.
Is there any risk they have a slight soft underbelly? So if you're winning your group games by an average of 25 points and then you win the semi-final by 10, as Brian was pointing out, it's like a plus 100 scoring difference they have for the year-end championship. They won the league final quite comfortably against the same opponents. Is there any chance we turn around on Monday and go, do you know what, Cork actually weren't tested?
Yeah, and it's a question that's been posed to a lot of the players. I spoke to Saoirse McCarthy about it at the media day a few weeks ago, and she said we're nearly sick of hearing that question because they get asked it so often. You know, you talk about probably Cork, Galway and Kilkenny just being at the top of the Camogie realm, and a lot of the time they aren't getting tested. They always go back to speak about the games that they're having in-house. Amy O'Connor spoke about it today as well in the Examiner or the Echo, that the games in training that they're having are some of the best games, which is not great. The games you're having in-house can't be some of your most competitive games because they're not going to be the same. You're not going to get the same atmosphere. But again, the experience of this team, they've played in tough games, but just not recently. So
I do wonder about that, Keith, like when it comes to a team, right? And say if they do have a good run and they're beating everyone through a cup competition, then they get to a final, it doesn't necessarily translate that they perform well in the final.
Yeah, sometimes you're never sure which is the better route, to have an easier route or whether it's to be battled hard and then ready to go. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. You know, you don't want lumps to be knocked out as you go through the rounds. You don't want it to be too easy. So I don't think any manager could say we'd love to just fly through to the final or we'd love to get lumps taken out of us. Yeah, I don't think there's a right or wrong way. It's just about rolling into every game as it comes and keeping standards really high.
Yeah, Rachel Galway are in a perfect perspective here because we're all going, Cork are amazing, Cork were brilliant all year and they should probably do 3 in a row. At the same time, Galway go, we're unbeaten this year. They, I thought, took care of their semi-final very professionally against Tipperary, and they go into an All-Ireland final against an opponent who they were within touch and distance at the end of the game last year.
Absolutely. Galway are laughing this week with the run of the All-Ireland final. You mentioned there, Keith, that there's no perfect preparation for a final. I think Galway have had that. They topped the group but they had a tough group. You know, they really convincingly beat Kilkenny and Dublin, who would have been tough games.
Did the business against Waterford in the last round.
When it really mattered. Like, Waterford travelled up to Athenry, a narrow pitch on a good day. I'd say it felt about this small, you know, to the Waterford team. They managed it, and there wasn't too much celebrations at halftime. Like, they've just dealt with this whole year quietly. You know, they've gone about their business, like you said. And then they had a break. They had that 4-week break, but they had a great game against Tip as well. Just looked after them, like that full back line. This weekend, I think the full back line... Crucial. And that battle with the Cork full forward line is going to be immense. Whatever way Cork actually line out in the full forward line. I see Dave Germanley has named the team this morning, so Clodagh Finn is on the bench. So it's a good sign that she's not like out of the group altogether, that she might play some part, hopefully. But the Galway full back line against Tipperary were just incredible. Like, Roisin Black didn't play in that league final early on this year, and she's one of their best players. You know, she controls everything from back there. So I think if they can put enough pressure on that Cork full forward line, they're in with such a good chance.
That's the whole trick, though. They got to keep this tight. If it's going to happen, I think if Galway win, they win on a low scoring game.
Oh yeah, it's going to be a dirty battle that Galway are going to drag Cork down to, I think, and that's how they'll win this game. They'll make Croke Park feel like the smallest pitch in Ireland.
That's what's going to work out for them. We were talking yesterday as well. 5:15 is such a weird throw-in time, especially when two teams are coming from so far away, with Cork and Galway. I know you can't predict that start of the year, and it was never ideal when the Premier Junior final was on at 11:30 in the morning. Now at least it's back to 1 o'clock, but 5:15 is a very late start, isn't it?
It is, yeah, and I know it's probably finding that happy medium. I think Sarah O'Donoghue had a great suggestion yesterday about putting the under-23 final before the senior final, and then Premier Junior and Intermediate on Saturday.
So I think about that last night is the only potential issue there that, say, there could be crossover with the 23s.
Yeah.
Some could be on the panel. Because in
Which
a way,
is happening.
I was going to say, in some of the counties, particularly Cork and Galway in this case, used some of the 23 players early in that championship to blood them, and now they're part of the senior team.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you look at Orla Mullins from Cork, prime example. She was playing with the under-23s, and then they brought her on to play against Wexford in the last group game, which a lot of people thought, like, why are you doing that? It's not a guarantee, but you know Cork were favoured to win that match. Why aren't you letting her play on with the under-23s for the rest of the year? But I mean, it's clearly come good because she came on last week against Waterford and scored 1-2.
Yeah, especially when they don't have an intermediate team. So I was having a quick look at their intermediate team that got to the final last year. A lot of those players are now part of the senior panel because the way that things have changed with intermediate. So therefore, you got to try and find a way to integrate them. And if you don't give them some game time during the group or during the league, you're not going to be able to throw them in later in the year.
No, not at a senior level either. You know, and not in Croke Park. So the under-23 thing as well, it's another reason that Galway are going to be delighted going into this weekend. I mean, that was kind of the exact same setup. Cork were so heavily favoured to win that under-23 All-Ireland final. They'd beaten them well earlier on in the year, and then Galway just kind of came out of nowhere and blew them away. And I saw an interview with Mairead Dillon during the week from Galway, and she just said, finals are for winning.
Yeah.
You know, there's no lacking of confidence in this Galway camp, and all of the talk about the 3 in a row, about this legendary Cork team, it's only going to feed into them, and Cathal Murray's obviously going to be using that to their advantage.
Yeah, but like, he's also massively experienced coming into this, and like, he's seen a lot of good players come and go in the last few years, and I know it's difficult without the McGraths. I mean, hopefully Sarah Dervin's going to be talking to us at the weekend as part of the coverage. They lost a lot of their generals over the last while, but still at the same time, if you can import someone in like Niamh Mallon, you're doing all right.
Yeah, it's in the two, like Niamh Mallon, Circa McCartan. I'd say the Down Camogie team are looking up saying, please, come back to us, come back to us. So they're instrumental. I mean, Niamh Mallon the last day, she's unmarkable the way she's playing at the moment. Like, she gets so low to pick up that ball. And I watched the last year's All-Ireland final as well yesterday, and you had Laura Hayes marking her for a while, one of the best defenders in the country, and she did everything she could, and Mallon still gets the ball and puts the ball over the bar. And she's so much better this year, I think, than she was last year. Towards the second half.
She's so prominent. So she got, was it 117 from play, I think?
117 from 5 games.
That's impressive.
Yeah, and most of those frees that Carrie Dolan are putting over, it's Niamh Mallon's being fouled.
Yeah. Yeah, like, again, Carrie Dolan comes off the pitch. What you need is a consistent free taker, I think, at this level as well. So when Tipperary started to give away some of the frees when they were trying to force turnovers in that game, Carrie was naturally popping them over. But as you say, Mallon has kind of become the main player within the forward line. And I take Sarah's point from yesterday that you would probably love to have a Siobhan McGrath in and around the square, that extra type of option. But it just means that Niamh Mallon's having to take on a bit more of the scoring load here.
Yeah, and we saw Carrie Dolan drop into full forward for a while against Waterford. Don't think it worked too well for them. You know, she's so good at popping the ball out further out the field. But Aoife O'Donoghue has been as sturdy as she always is. But Ailish O'Reilly as well coming on that semi-final. She had the game of her life. And she scored 4 or 5 points from play. So it's at the start I was wondering, are they too reliant on Niamh Mallon before the semi-final against Tip? And then Ailish O'Reilly stood up and Ray Dillon scored 3 points from play as well that day. So a lot goes through Mallon, but she does have the out ball to give, and it's not like she's giving it to someone that can't put it over either. If you're getting the ball from Niamh Mallon, giving it out to Carrie Dolan, she's going to pop it over.
Cork's depth. So again, all years you say they've got a strong panel. We saw in the semi-final when it was required, it was like if they need to bring in a bit of injection, they've got youth, they've got pace that they can bring off the bench here too.
Youth and pace, and then also experience and pace, bringing Katrina Mackey in when Clodagh Finn got injured. You know, one of your top scorers all year can't start the semi-final. Sometimes you'd be thinking, this could be a potential problem. And then you bring in the likes of Katrina Mackey, who I think is Cork's now 4th top scorer. It's the depth in the panel, and all of the girls have been speaking about it, that you never know who's going to start on any given day. And I can believe that. You know, it's not just something they've been told to say. Especially that full forward line, half forward line, like Saoirse McCarthy put her hand up last week or at the semi-final with the performance of a lifetime. You know, so that's something you say, like that position can't be competed for. But then you look at Orla Mullins coming in, scoring 1-2 off the bench, and it can. So the depth in the panel is definitely something Cork have an advantage of. You know, there's 50 minutes on the clock. You spring a couple of those girls, especially the likes of Clodagh Finn, who changed the game last year when she came on the final. She's the goal poacher that Sarah talked about yesterday.
So you go into this final professionally at the weekend, right? Because you're going to have Ashley Mara with you, Tommy Rooney's going to be there too. You're focused on the games. So therefore, I wouldn't for a moment question any of your objectivity when it comes to this.
Absolutely
but
not.
Do you feel a bit of PTSD when you walk into Croke Park after the second half of the hurling?
100%. 100%. It's ruined my trustiness, like outside of sport even. I'll never trust again after that All-Ireland hurling final. That goes much deeper than GA.
Oh no, because it seems this is right. So Kingfisher has now died off for the summer. It's like there seemed to be this inevitable red wave of emotion that was coming to a crescendo, and then Tipperary ripped up the script.
Yeah, so hopefully the girls can bring it home again on Sunday. And even I'm so excited, as I said, from a professional, take my Cork hat off, just to see how the sides line out, because I think Conor Murray's going to have to do something a little bit different. You know, Waterford played the sweeper, almost played 2 sweepers at times. So will he try that? I don't think so.
See, I don't think that can work longer term within a game. And we were talking to Niamh about it yesterday. It was like at half time, it was almost like they had deployed the perfect tactics. They kept this tight, but you knew that was going to be energy sapping trying to play that. And also, when the game starts to go against you, it's very hard to flip the switch and go from a double sweeper to maybe go back to 15 on 15.
Yeah, and against a Cork side now who have faced the double sweeper, and their running game is so strong, they'll just run at you if you've got sweepers there, and they'll let you come to you and then give the ball off again. So I don't know, is it going to be a real curveball tactical decision that he'll make? Like Brian said, maybe bringing Aoife O'Donoghue out to Mark Laura Tracy. That'd be an interesting one.
It would.
But I think he's going to have to do something a bit wild that might unsettle the Cork team for the first 5-10 minutes, because that's exactly what they have to do. You know, this Galway team are going to have to play the game of their lives, all of them again. You know, a lot of them had their game of their lives in the semi-final, but they're going to have to do it again. Whereas we saw in the semi-final with Cork, maybe the middle, Aisling Thompson, Hannah Looney, Amy O'Connor, they weren't as effective as they usually are, and they still ran out 10-point winners. Galway can't afford for anyone to have a bad day.
The occasion itself, I think the first 2 finals are going to be good too. So Laois and Armagh have been very close. Last year they were both beaten by Tip, the champions, I'm going to say by 1 point. And Offaly trying to get back to senior after this is their second year at intermediate after going down, up against a Kerry team who, again, reading some of the interviews, been great actually seeing all the various different bits and pieces through the papers throughout the week, where Kerry was saying once upon a time they felt they were right on the floor at junior level, and now here's this massive opportunity to go to senior for them. That final's hard to call because their 2 semis were quite close as well. And then we've got the senior final. The occasion itself, are you looking forward to it? Because I saw Trina Murray, again, the ladies football president, was out yesterday kind of rallying to say, get people along to watch the Camogie at the weekend. Are you expecting a big occasion Sunday?
Yeah, I think maybe Brian Malloy's comments during the week got a lot of negative feedback.
Well, I disagree with him, and I was quite open on that. I think the last thing you can do is say, just because you support your men's team, you go watch your women's team. I don't think it works like that. Yeah,
it doesn't. And it's a tricky one to call. But I think people have been following the Camogie. Like, people know a lot about these 2 teams now from watching, especially like having the semi-finals televised.
Yeah.
as an occasion, I do think it's going to be brilliant. And people giving out about the 5:15 throw-in, yeah, it's a poor time to have an All-Ireland final, but if you'll go at 3, you'll go at 5.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think that should make too much of a difference. Yeah, I know you're bringing small kids up the country, but just an extra 2 hours.
I sent them to you in the office yesterday. So
Yeah.
so back home in Offaly, they've cancelled the hurling games that were on Sunday so that people could go to Croke Park. My first thought when I heard that was, okay, don't compete against your own teams. I agree. But on the other hand, anyone who's going to go to Croke Park would have picked that over a club game anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Realistically.
Exactly. That's it. And I know at home, obviously, there's buses going up from all the clubs, which is great. And like there is excitement at home, you know, and the coverage that they're getting locally is brilliant. And I think it's feeding in a small bit, probably not to the level I'd still like to see it, but I think we'll have cracker games on Sunday and it'll be the best. Like the semi-finals were an unbelievable advertisement for Camogie and it'll be the same again. So hopefully we can come out on the right side of the results.
Oh, I was about to say, what's your prediction? And then when you say, hopefully, you're going to win.
It's not as done and dusted as everyone's making it out to be. Like it's really not. And this isn't the PTSD kicking in. It's the perfect storm for Galway. It's not like Cork are coming up against a real inexperienced side. Take, for example, the Waterford side they faced in the 23 All-Ireland final. You know, a lot of those girls had never played in Croke Park before, never played in senior All-Ireland final before. It's not that case, but people are making it out to be. And Galway have been just getting better game on game on game, and they're not getting the credit that they deserve for it because maybe they haven't been putting up as unbelievable scores as Cork, but their opposition has been better.
Yeah,
it has. So Galway are just they're peaking, and I think they're peaking in time for a massive upset. I do still think that Cork have it in the bank. They have that experience, but it's not going to be in any way as easy as people are making it out to be.
You will be accused of Yera right there, but I know it's not. This is a team who were in the All-Ireland final last year. So Rachel's going to be part of our coverage on Sunday. So Shane will be chatting to Rachel and Tommy, and also Dublin player Aisling Maher is going to be part of our coverage as well.